Hi, welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone.
Yeah, we are live.
Just wanted to tell you are live now. It works out now. You're live.
Wonderful. We, of course, had to fix some technical issues. Otherwise, we wouldn't be hosting this panel with Sea-Watch, where occasionally we have small issues with technical things, particularly internet. It's been a year since my arrest, and there were quite a few requests to do interviews and things like that. But I thought it's a great opportunity to say absolutely nothing and give the words to the experts who have something to say on the issues of the Mediterranean Sea and migration in general. So I'm extremely excited that I'm hosting this panel here with 4 people. We're still waiting for one of them, who is Hassan, who will be joining us from Tripoli. We have Nevros, who is in Germany, as well as Kashif and Aziz, who is in Switzerland. Each of them will speak for about 10 minutes, tell us about what they think is important to share with you. And then there's an opportunity for you to ask questions, and we will close at about 5 o'clock. So please put your questions in the YouTube channel. We're not answering any questions on Sea-Watch. We're not answering any questions on the mission of the last year. It's all over. So we are only answering questions on things these guys have to say. So actually, yeah, it's Nevros first. Really happy that she will speak about the network Will Come United. So please, Nevros.
Vielen Dank. Hallo zusammen. Ja, ich werde kurz über Welcome United erzählen und über die aktuellen Pläne und Diskussionen, was gerade so auf der Tagesordnung sind. Welcome United ist ein bundesweites Netzwerk, das gibt es seit 4 Jahren ungefähr, mit der Idee nach bundesweit irgendwie Strukturen zu verbinden, Kämpfe zu verbinden und die Solidarität
It looks like we unexpectedly lost Nevros. Let's see if she comes back. Kashif, would you like to take over for the moment?
Yeah. So actually, I take it from that. For me today, like the most important than discussing if there is ship online, how you face it, how the operation goes on. For me to look how the states, actually EU states, they are cooperating. It's a really great collaboration, but not to rescue people, not to save lives. Instead, to combat and prevent people from arriving in Europe. And these people are actually looking for safe spaces. They are looking for refuge. And unfortunately, there is this war against them. It's not just the criminalization against the rescuer or against the civil society. It's also against the migrant themselves, against the people in move. And when we look to the bigger picture, even when they arrive to Europe, to the hotspots, it's terrifying. I think Nevros came back, so I was just taking the time until you come back to us. Welcome back.
Tut mir leid, so wie es ist, online. Es muss immer technische Probleme geben. Danke, Kashif. Ich mache einfach direkt weiter. Ja? Genau, also wo ich stehen geblieben bin, der Punkt, warum es wichtig ist, bundesweit Kämpfe zu verbinden und die gemeinsam sichtbar zu machen, dass das der Hauptpunkt ist, an dem wir seit Jahren dran sind. Ne? Von den kleinsten Dörfern bis in die Großstädte, solidarische Strukturen, selbstorganisierte Strukturen in Verbindung zu bringen und nicht aus dieser Defensive, in der wir uns seit Jahren befinden, gegen diese Abschottungspolitik, aus dieser Defensive rauszugehen, sichtbar zu sein und auch die erkämpfte Räume, aber auch die erkämpfte Rechte, die wir in den letzten Jahren hatten, auch sichtbar zu machen, weil wir haben auch Erfolge. Wir sind nicht nur diejenigen oder Strukturen, die überall verlieren gegen diese diskriminierende, rassistische und Abschreckungspolitik von Europa, sondern wir sind auch diejenigen, die seit Jahren kämpfen, denn diese Themen, die wir besprechen, Außengrenzen bis nach Deutschland, Abschiebungen, sind keine neuen Themen. Das sind Sachen, die seit Jahren, Jahrzehnten laufen, wo Menschen dagegen aktiv sind. Und da drin auch die Kämpfe, die Erfolge, die wir erzielt haben, auch sichtbar zu machen. Weil wir sind nicht nur die Verlierer, sage ich mal, gegen die großen Mächte. Nein, wir haben so viel aufgebaut und das ist das, was wir auch immer in der Öffentlichkeit und auf der Straße sichtbar machen müssen. Und deshalb haben wir die letzten 3 Jahre Paraden gemacht. Letztes Jahr mit Unteilbar in Sachsen, davor die Jahre in Hamburg mit 30.000 Menschen auf der Straße, um zu zeigen, so uns geht es um die Kämpfe gegen Rassismus, gegen AfD, aber auch gleichzeitig gegen den Rassismus an den europäischen Außengrenzen in Moria und in den Lagern hier in diesem Land. Ja? Und dieses Jahr, wir haben 2020, es sind 5 Jahre von March of Hope. Es sind 5 Jahre von Durchbruch auf der Balkanroute, was Menschen sich selbst erkämpft haben. Ja? Geflüchtete Migranten, die sich auf den Weg gemacht haben und sich das Recht auf Bewegungsfreiheit genommen haben. Und das ist auch das, was wir dieses Jahr groß machen müssen, was wir dieses Jahr sichtbar machen müssen. Weil sind zwar 5 Jahre her, aber das, was vor 5 Jahren passiert ist, dieser kurze, kleine Moment, der eigentlich Menschen hier gezeigt hat, Solidarität ist in ganz Europa möglich. Solidarität ist machbar. Und wenn wir uns solidarisieren mit Geflüchteten, mit Migranten, wenn wir uns für offene Grenzen stellen, das ist etwas, was dieses Land, was dieses Kontinent eigentlich braucht. Und das macht nicht alles schlimmer. Nein, wir hatten kurze Tage, Wochen von Solidarität überall, von Bahnhöfen bis auf den Straßen, was nochmal neue Strukturen mit sich aufgebaut hat. Ja, und wo die Rechten sofort natürlich in die Offensive gegangen sind, um zu zeigen, so, wir brauchen Grenzen. Wir brauchen Grenzen und diese Solidarität, die gezeigt wurde, wurde immer mehr aus der Öffentlichkeit verdrängt. Es ist nicht so, dass wir heute keine Solidarität haben, dass wir keine solidarische Strukturen haben. Wir haben die. Aber natürlich ist es aus den Medien raus und wir müssen das stark machen. Wir müssen stark machen, was für Strukturen wir aufgebaut haben. Wir müssen stark machen, dass wir Strukturen aufbauen und nicht mit den Kämpfen aufhören, mit den antirassistischen Kämpfen nicht aufhören und dass das Kontinuität braucht. Ja, es ist nicht eine Sache von 1, 2 Jahren. Es braucht Kontinuität und natürlich wissen wir, diese rassistischen Strukturen werden nicht irgendwie in 5 Jahren mit den Kämpfen, mit den Demonstrationen aufhören. Die europäische Abschiebungsmaschinerie wird auch nicht in den nächsten Jahren aufhören. Und gerade deshalb ist es extrem wichtig, dass existierende Strukturen sich vernetzen und sich gegenseitig Kraft geben und sich aber auch an die Erfolge erinnern, was wir alles geschafft haben und natürlich sich auch noch mal an neue Formen von von Allianzen denken. Ja, Allianzen. Allianzen mit anderen Strukturen, Allianzen mit anderen Netzwerken, Allianzen, die transnational sind, Allianzen, die grenzenübergreifend sind, weil die Kämpfe von heute, auch die Demonstrationen gegen Rassismus, zeigen, dass es so viele Querverbindungen auch gibt eigentlich. Ne? Es gibt Querverbindungen, die müssen nur gestärkt werden. Es müssen neue oder weitere, größere Allianzen geschaffen werden, damit wir das Thema Rassismus, Außengrenzen, Ausbeutung und Diskriminierung auch gemeinsam sichtbar machen können. Wir haben in diesem Land ein riesiges Rassismusproblem zum Beispiel, was wir aber auch, es ist nicht nur der Rassismus in der Polizei, es ist auch nicht nur Rassismus, was von Nazis kommt, sondern es ist Rassismus in der Abschreckungs- und in der Flüchtlingspolitik. Ja? Wenn wir uns die diskriminierenden Gesetze anschauen. Und wir müssen darin stärker die Verbindungen sichtbar machen. Die Verbindungen sichtbar machen, dass das, was an den europäischen Außengrenzen passiert, ja, das Morden an den europäischen Außengrenzen, das Menschen verrecken lassen in Camps wie Moria, mit dem, was auch hier passiert, auch was zu tun hat. Ja? Meine Hautfarbe entscheidet darüber, ob ich ernst genommen werde, ob ich überleben darf oder nicht. Die Kämpfe, was an den europäischen Außengrenzen passieren, wo der Politik versucht, mit allen Kräften das unsichtbar zu machen, die Menschenrechtsverletzungen an den europäischen Außengrenzen unsichtbar zu machen. Ja? Das ist das, was wir mit den Allianzen, die ich vorhin meinte, mit diesen Querverbindungen schaffen, was wir mehr sichtbar machen müssen, was diese Rassismen auch miteinander zu tun haben. Und deshalb ist es wichtig, dass wir auch dieses Jahr am March of Hope denken, dass wir versuchen, dieses Jahr auch Proteste, trotz der aktuellen Situation, Proteste organisieren, dass wir an March of Hope denken, dass wir aber auch daran denken, nach so vielen Jahren, die Abschiebemaschinerie geht weiter, die Abschiebeknäste werden immer mehr, das Morden an den europäischen Außengrenzen hört nicht auf und der Rassismus mordet immer mehr. Ich bin in Hanau, ich sitze in Hanau. Dieses Jahr hat uns der rechte Terror 9 Menschen in Hanau weggenommen. Und wir müssen täglich dagegen kämpfen, um den Behörden, um der Politik, um der Gesellschaft klarzumachen, womit wir es hier zu tun haben. Und wir müssen allen immer den Rassismus erklären. Ja? Dass es nicht nur um die AfD geht und um die organisierte Neonazi-Strukturen geht, sondern es ist ein gesamtgesellschaftliches und politisches Problem, was in allen Strukturen in diesem Land, in diesem Kontinent existiert, was auf allen Ebenen bekämpft werden muss.
Thank you so much, Nevos. I will just give a short sum up in English of what you said. Thanks a lot. We also will post into the chat a translation of what was being said. So Nevos was rightly pointing out that she thinks it's extremely important to focus on the successes which activist and migrant networks have reached in the past. Because despite there not being a lot of media focus, there's a lot of work being done on the ground, and it is important that it's highlighted what is happening. There's a lot of self-organized solidarity networks, which have been there since decades, which have been growing, and they're very, very active. And it needs more highlighting that we have all seen in 2015 how for a few weeks there was a lot of solidarity with the refugees arriving to Europe through Turkey. And it's actually possible for the society to show that solidarity, and that there really needs to be more focus on the positive initiatives. And this is also why Nevros with Welcome United, they have organized in the past years parades also to kind of celebrate what is happening. And she also rightly points out the need to have much broader alliances between various groups. So not only working about the frontiers, the border of Europe, but also about racism within Europe, linking all these different struggles of not only racism within the authorities, like the police, as we're very often seeing, not only of the right-wing parties, but also within all the different groups of society. So yeah, we will put the whole text in the chat. Thank you, Nevros. I know that Hassan is trying to come online and he's been here, but I think he's left again. So for the moment, I would like to hand over to Aziz, if you can hear me and if you would like to speak. Yeah, just a word before that. So Aziz has been 6 years in offshore detention on Manus Island. He was trying to reach Australia and he has been living in Geneva since a year now. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you, Carola, for the brief introduction. And thank you very much for having me. It's such an honor to be part of this panel. And as you know, as you said, the time is against us, so I will try and, make it a brief. Well, I would like to focus on a 4 main points. So point number 1, I don't want to go back and introduce myself as Carola has introduced me. So I'm among the people who have spent 6 years in detentions, and as we speak, I have left people behind me on their way to the 7 years in detention center. But the question is, how did we get there? So to get there is I took a journey, which is one of the risky journey from Indonesia to Australia. Depends on which way people take. There are some ways that will take 5 days, some ways that will take 9 days. And nobody will imagine the rescue of the life that we have took to get to a point, to a safety haven. But the question which we ask ourselves, or which we want everyone to ask himself, is why are these people taking a risky to be in the middle of the Indian Ocean, which is a wider and has no end? In fact, we have major problems that forcing us to leave our own countries. And among the problems, if we count them, there are a handful of problems. You have conflict, you have a political persecutions, and you have, so on and on and on, the problems will go. And these are the major problems which forcing people to seek for, a safety and a better place to start their future. And at the same times, we have to be, sure that not to forget our contribution toward the hosting community, because I've seen that people have made a lot of contribution, especially migrants and refugees. No matter where they go, where they end up, their contributions are always positive. But as a matter of fact, we have seen that, this sort of, contribution has been politicized, and which it's become one of the, hottest topic between left and right. And at the end of the day, it leads us to have a detention centers. Francis, speaking of official detention centers, and why EU shouldn't, copy Australia. Many peoples in EU have been hearing, since it's been in Geneva for 1 year, that I've been hearing from many leaders that they are thinking of copying the official detention centers of Australia. Australia become today like a symbol of the harsh policy toward asylum seekers, and which they have won several medals to say that we have stopped the boats and we use the human cost to stop the boats, right? But they have built the detention center, which is an official detention centers. And in that official detention centers, we have no much People don't talk about it. People don't talk about the suffering of the people within the official detention centers. We don't talk about the loss of life within the detention centers. And then we don't talk about the taxpayers' money that they use to, accommodate peoples, or they use to torture peoples, if I could use this word as a torture. And of course, it is an absolutely a psychological torture, I can say, and no one counted. So one of my main, criticism today is that I've seen Europe, it's been dragging, and they have been actually taking an initiative to say, yes, Australia has done this, a beautiful jobs. But so far, I feel like they have no, an insight. They have no contacts with people who comes from the detention center, people who lived inside the detention centers for the 6 years. So we have seen, which is an unspoken, things within that official detention centers. We've been, psychologically tortured. We've been traumatized. We've been, there's a racism against us, and there are so many things that happen to us in that official detention centers. But the point is, what we were trying to do is we were trying to raise our hands. We were trying to raise our hand and to reach out to the international community. At least we say that, look, we exist. At least say something about us. We shouldn't allow countries to, there's no one above the law. But we realize that Australians, from my point of view, that they are above the law because they are doing what they are doing. But from the perspective of Europeans, from the perspective of the Europeans or the EU, we are seeing that EUs are saying, yes, Australia is far away and we don't want to be preoccupied with what is happening. But today the problems come to the shore of EU. It comes to your door. And right now, the only things that the EU today is focusing on is they're trying to, replicate the official detention centers. But let's make no mistakes. Let's just have a look at the conventions, the 1951 conventions. This is a convention that has brought all the leaders around the globe to one place to say never again. And also it's an apology to the Jews. What happened to the Jews? It's an apology. And today we are seeing that the same thing they should, instead of giving that, respecting the apology and their signature to the conventions, now they are walking away and they start, violating the international law. And they are looking at the refugees and the migrants as, caretakers, or people who are coming to take their jobs, or people who are coming to take the taxpayers' money. But as a matter of fact, they never talk about our contributions. They never talk about our positive outcomes. They never talk about us, because we are not exist. We are not exist in a round table. We are not exist when they are making that decisions. We are not exist when the NGOs are fighting ups and downs about us. We are not exist. We don't have someone on the round table to say, yes, this is really positive things and this is a negative things. This is one of the major issues. And the second thing, as an activist, I worked my entire 6 years on Manus Islands when I was detained there with a smuggled phone. And I started to, sending information out. I went to prison, even from the detention to prison, for speaking out, right? And I had experienced a lot. But what is the point? Why I didn't even give up? Because I wanted to send a message that I wanted to send a message to a people to say, look, there is no difference between you and me. There's no difference between you and me. The only difference is you have the privilege to be born, in places like Europe, or you have the privilege to born in a country where there's a freedom of speech, there's a freedom of movement, there's an equal rights. But in opposite way, we see me. I was born in a country where, yes, freedom of speech, it's been dictated. It's like a dictators. You are not allowed to speak. Freedom of movement, it's been reduced, and there is no rights. And when someone like me who come out and who wants to say, look, wants to remind you of what is happening in my home country and also wants you to be on my side and fight with me so that we can bring a justice to everyone, I mean, I get pushed back. I get to be, I mean, put in prisons. We get to be, I mean, they use a word such as describing us like a stink trash bag, which is one of the insulting words that they've been used against us. And also they have using such as like, oh, boat peoples, I mean, illegal arrivals. All of this terminology that you use to describe us, it doesn't even fit on us. Because let us make no mistake that we have only walked away from this crisis not long ago. I mean, in Europe, during the World War II, what happened, we had something which is unspeakable things that happen in this country, in this continent. But what happened? Are the people who are on the other continent say something like that? Of course not. Are the people on the other continents open their doors to welcome you or not? Yes, they did. So why are you today using this word to describe it as a human being? You never even think about it. And what really touched me, it's when I came out of the detention, people were thinking that, okay, he's now based in Geneva and he will, I mean, you know, he got his freedoms because he was fighting for his freedoms and he got his freedom. But of course, they're making mistakes. This is a mistake, a misjudgment. When someone who's like, you are an activism, you walk out of the detention center, you come to a place where you want to raise your voice. And we have been forced to perform our tragedy, our trauma to a people, to please people, to ask people, begging people that please help us. I mean, you have to, I mean, tell your stories of what happened to you in a way so that people can, I mean, extend hand to you. And which is, I said, it's not really, I mean, acceptable. I've been in Moria. I mean, before the lockdown, I was in Moria. I spent a week in Moria. And despite the 6 years that I've been in detention, what I saw in Moria, it's really, I mean, it turns me upside down. Why I say that? Because what I have seen, I ask myself these questions every night of the day that I spent a week in Moria. I was asking myself, like, am I in Europe or am I somewhere else? And if I'm in Europe, please God, tell me what is going on in Europe. I have seen something which is I have never even expected to see. 20,000 people who were left in a place which is less than, I mean, 1,000 meters. And people were left with no food, inadequate medical services. I mean, no one allowed to go in, no one allowed to go out. People were stuck like a sardine. And speaking of that, I mean, why are we not paying attention to what happens? And also, I feel like in one sense that even the media today are complicit to what is happening, I mean, to the refugees. Starting from the pushback to the refugee crisis and everything. They are, I mean, complicit because we don't see much about, I mean, about the refugees in the media. All we see is refugees are coming, refugees are jumping in, refugees are breaking in, refugees are doing all the negative things. But we don't see a fingers that point at the refugee as a positive things. But on top of that, we have like millions of NGOs, and then we have like a very huge machine like a UN. Today, even UN of the 19th century, it's not the UN of the 21st century. UN of the 19th century that has gotten a strong word to say, yes, enough is enough. But the UN of the 21st century, which is becoming very weak to extend that even countries are maneuvering with their decisions to say yes or to say no. As a matter of fact, obligations, it's become like a word that people are not even respecting it no longer. And then humanity has been replaced with the money. So this is what happened today. I mean, they look at the people who are really coming, which is nearly 8 million today people in the move. They look at them, oh, they are coming from a countries where, I mean, it's a poor country. So we don't get much from them. We're scared that when these people come to our countries, they will take whatever we have. But they never thought of, if these people come to our country, they will contribute. And our contributions are always positive. So once again, before I finish I would just want to say one thing that, I mean, please allow us to be in a round table with you. and we have so much to offer. And we have also the knowledge that can allow, can contribute and bring solution to this crisis that we are seeing. This is not a political crisis, and these are not the problems. These are the reality. They are humans who are in a move, who need compassion and open hand, not a blocking borders and saying like you versus us versus them, or them versus us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aziz. Thank you for giving your opinion on that. I'm happy that Hassan has now joined. Hassan, if you can hear us, can you please speak? Hassan, can you hear us? Hassan. Hello, Hassan. I'm very excited to have you here. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I'm just going to introduce you quickly. In another panel, you have said that you came from Sudan after a lot of hardship. Two of your brothers have died, and then you decided to leave because it was just too dangerous. You went a long way through Libya. You have tried to get on a boat twice, and you have been pulled back twice by this coast guard. And currently you are back in Tripoli. You have told me last time. Please tell us what is the situation, what is going on. I'm really happy that you came. Yeah, it seems that his connection is quite bad. Kashif, I hope that Hassan will come back, but could you please then give us your view? You're a member of Watch the Met and Alarm Phone. Curious what you have to say.
Can you hear me well?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, good. So as Aziz was saying and talking about the broader picture and how it is, it's not just people are jumping to the sea, coming to Europe, and some civil society NGOs out there in the sea trying to rescue them. But we have to notice and also to see the struggle and the misery behind this. All this people move in Libya, in Greece, in Turkey, in Morocco, in Tunisia, even in Italy. All these people are just trying to find a safe place, a normal life, if there's a normal life. But what happening actually, as we see, what happens in Libya is known, it's spoken. The war in Libya, all these clashes between different militias, the political crisis in Libya, the torture, the slavery. We witnessed slavery in Libya in 2020. Like, hello, where's the modern world? Where's the human rights speech? There is nothing there but war. So people trying to save their lives, to find the refuge, so trying crossing the sea to Europe. And they face the fortress. All the states, the strongest states, instead of saving lives, of trying to help these people to find a normal life, no, they are involved in preventing, compacting, fighting these people, but also they are funding the war there through military equipment. So it's really crazy how it's going. And speaking about EU now saying that Europe is suffering from migration flows, suffering from migrants, but at the same time they are feeding the reasons that in the other side, forcing the people and pushing them to cross the sea and to find a different place than their homes. EU is involved, is totally involved in this. So it's a kind of consequences. And instead of taking the responsibility to face such a problem, they are increasing it. So I see it also as a political crisis, not just a reality. It's the political crisis is affecting the reality. And then it's not the end when people arrive to Europe, because it's not easy, sleazy, and it's not a cake and everyone is taking a part of it. There is a long way of a bureaucratic process of unhuman situations in different camps and lagers, not just in Greece, in Italy, in Germany, in different countries, European countries. The camps, the situations in camps, awful. All this need us to be in a solidarity, what Nevros was saying. Solidarity with the people, to find initiatives. One of the good initiatives, great initiatives coming from the civil society organizations and cities and municipalities, the European cities and municipalities, trying to find a safe place for refugees. There is an initiative in Germany with we happen and Platz, we have a place for refugees. And this initiative called From Sea to the City. So from the sea, people are crossing the sea. They get rescued by a civil fleet. And then to the cities, there is a solidarity cities, a cities welcoming refugees and saying that we have a place, because there is a place. All the states are afraid of to take the bureaucratic burden on their shoulders and to deal with the situation. It's a big, really big conflict, and it's complicated, and we have to start work on it because it's affecting people's life. As he said, it's not just numbers. It's not just this unknown enemies coming crossing from a different place with different culture. It's really human being life, and it's matter. So yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Kashif. I will put some questions forward which have been brought to us. And I'm still hoping that Hassan will actually be able to join after we heard him quickly. So there were actually questions for Nevros about the solidarity that she was describing, whether it can be brought into practice and how these practical solutions could look like. And also there was another question for her asking whether in Hanau, where we had this racist shooting, she also saw any differences of people thinking and considering more about structural racism. And yeah, of course, Nevros will answer in German.
Ja, zu der ersten Frage, wie Solidarität umsetzbar ist. Ich glaube, Solidarität ist, ich verstehe Solidarität als etwas, was nicht wie ein Hobby ist oder wo man irgendwie zu einer bestimmten Zeit das irgendwie umsetzen kann, wie gerade man Bock drauf hat. Solidarität ist etwas, was mit der Gesellschaft zu tun hat, in der wir leben wollen. Das ist, glaube ich, etwas, was wir erstmal alle für uns, die Frage, die wir für uns alle beantworten müssen. Ne? In was für einer Gesellschaft wollen wir leben und tun wir genug für diese Gesellschaft, von der wir wollen, dass es zu einem, ja, zu mehr irgendwie sichtbar wird. Ne? Und das bedeutet, die Solidarität auch irgendwie in der eigenen Nachbarschaft zu zeigen. Das bedeutet, irgendwie Kontakte zu knüpfen, Communities zu verbinden, Communities neu zu gestalten, neue Verknüpfungen herzustellen. Und Solidarität fängt im Alltag an. Im Alltag, wo es nicht darum geht, ich gehe jetzt zu Leuten, die Unterstützung brauchen und unterstützen die und gehe dann wieder weg und dann habe ich meinen Beitrag geleistet. Nein, ich glaube, eine solidarische Gesellschaft hat irgendwas damit zu tun, dass wir, das ist eine große Aufgabe, das ist nicht etwas, was leicht ist, aber es hat was damit zu tun, dass wir unseren eigenen Alltag auch dementsprechend verändern müssen, weil wenn wir von solidarischen Strukturen sprechen, dann müssen wir sie selbst zur Realität machen. Das ist umsetzbar, natürlich ist es umsetzbar. All die Beispiele der letzten Jahre, die Kämpfe, die Gruppen, die antirassistischen Kämpfe, die wir auch geführt haben, sind starke Beispiele die zeigen, dass Solidarität möglich ist, dass Verknüpfungen möglich sind und dass das diese Gesellschaft der vielen auch sichtbar macht, diese Art von Solidarität. So. Und was zum Thema Rassismus nach Hanau, nach dem rassistischen Anschlag vom 19. Februar angeht. Der Terroranschlag vom 19. Februar hat 9 Menschen das Leben gekostet, 9 junge Menschen das Leben gekostet. Was danach etwas anders war, dass sich die Regierungsebene, die politischen Entscheidungsträger sich meiner Meinung nach das erste Mal so offen über Rassismus geäußert haben und Rassismus klarer benannt haben. Dass sich ein Steinmeier hinstellt und sagt, er als weißer Mann würde natürlich nicht verstehen, was es bedeutet, aufgrund von Hautfarbe und so auf Wohnungsmarkt oder Arbeitsmarkt Rassismus zu erleben, diskriminiert zu werden. Und dass der Innenminister sich hinstellt und der rechte Terror als die größte Gefährdung für dieses Land benannt wird. Das ist nochmal eine andere, dass die Politik das anders benennt. Das ist, glaube ich, das ist neu gewesen, so nach Hanau. Wo sich dann alle natürlich die Frage stellen, es ist schön und gut, dass Rassismus benannt wird, dass der rechte Terror als die größte Gefährdung in diesem Land anerkannt wird. Die Frage bleibt trotzdem, was ist mit dem strukturellen Rassismus? Warum redet ihr nicht so offen darüber? Und was macht ihr dagegen? Wie handelt ihr? Handelt ihr endlich oder bleibt es dabei, das zu benennen? Und der strukturelle Rassismus ist meiner Meinung nach nicht nach dem 19.02. Zu einem größeren Thema geworden, sondern mit den Demonstrationen von Black Lives Matter ist der strukturelle Rassismus in der Polizei zu einem größeren Thema geworden. Natürlich ist es so, dass mittlerweile in diesem Land viele Menschen wissen, weil es in der Öffentlichkeit war und weil die Öffentlichkeit im NSU-Prozess eine große Rolle gespielt hat, wie Behörden versagt haben, dass Rassismus auch in Behörden gibt und dass wir jetzt und dass die rassistische Terror, die rechten Netzwerke in Bundeswehr und in der Polizei heute bekannt sind. Es ist nicht mehr geheim, wo überall rechte Netzwerke sind und wie in der Polizei das Polizei ein Rassismusproblem hat, das Bundeswehr rechte Netzwerke in sich hat. Das ist nicht mehr geheim. Die Frage ist, wie wird das bekämpft? Wird es wirklich ernsthaft bekämpft? Weil ich sehe noch nicht, dass ehrlich eine Kampfansage gegen Rassismus sehe ich nicht wirklich. Es gibt eine Kampfansage gegen Rassismus, so, aber das wird als der Rassismus im Alltag benannt. Was wir brauchen heute ist eine Kampfansage gegen strukturellen Rassismus und gegen den Alltagsrassismus. Das ist das, was gebraucht wird und wo es gehandelt werden muss. Es reicht nicht mehr zu sagen, wir wissen, es gibt Rassismus in dieser Gesellschaft. Ja, das erzählen wir seit Jahrzehnten, dass es Rassismus in dieser Gesellschaft existiert. Was wir brauchen, ist eine ganz klare, konkrete Handlungsplan gegen den strukturellen Rassismus, gegen Behördenrassismus. Und damit ist nicht nur gemeint die Polizei, sondern alle Behörden und gegen den Alltagsrassismus. Da brauchen wir klare Haltung plus einen Handlungsplan.
Thank you, Nevros. Just to give a quick translation, so regarding Hannah, she said there was, of course, a lot of really, really nice words, but she's lacking the action plan, particularly on structural racism. So we're all very well aware there are like the police, the military in Germany sometimes are linked to terror networks. It's all very well known, but what really is lacking is a real concrete plan by politicians, by municipalities, by everyone on every level, what they're actually going to do to confront and to resolve the issues of structural racism. The other thing is that she said there needs to be a huge focus on the solidarity in everyday life, which is also carried out, for example, in all the anti-racism and anti-discrimination work, which all the different groups are doing, just to give some examples. There is one other question coming in. I think Kashif might be able to answer it, because the question is, a few years ago, there was a lot of talking about Frontex, which is the European Border Police. Now we mainly hear about Malta and the Italian Coast Guard. What's going on with Frontex at the moment? Kashif, would you like to say something to that?
Yeah, as mentioned, because it's really crazy that now we have Frontex, and Frontex, for the people that they don't know it, it's the European agency to secure and protect the European borders. And they have missions in the Mediterranean. It's not a rescue mission, but it's more like a military operations to secure borders. It has a big collaboration with all the European and European third countries. The thing now, when people in distress at sea, by international law and by the maritime law, it's obligatory to rescue them. So the concerned authority usually is MRCC Italy or MRCC Malta, depends, especially in the central Mediterranean, depends in which search and rescue zone. And for years now, we see that MRCCs was just withdraw responsibility and not taking the chance to rescue people and to save lives. But now it's developed to be a collaboration, which was so-called Libyan Coast Guard. So they organize pushbacks. And this pushbacks by proxy happening under the eyes of Frontex, because they have aerial assistants who spot the people in distress and then inform the Libyan Coast Guard so they can pick the people back to Libya. And this is a scandal, actually. Like, people are fleeing war. It's a land of war. It's a war zone, not just a conflict place. And what happens is that pushing people back there instead of securing a passage. Regulate it. You can regulate it. The states itself can regulate it. They can, as I said, they could take the responsibility, but they don't want to do it. And it's crazy because it's people are dying. I don't know how to explain it more than that. We all face the uncertainty because of COVID-19, and the whole world went crazy. Exceptional measurements and exceptional laws just came because we ourselves feel the threat. But when it touches other lives, we don't care. And I think it's related also to racism structure, because this Black people dying at sea, their lives don't matter for the masters at all. For me, in my eye, as the police killing people in the streets, stepping on their necks to death, it's the same that leaving people fleeing war to die at sea, or even worse, to collaborate with the criminals to push them back and put them in the hellhole again. And I would like that we have Hassan with us to tell us how it is there, how the conditions there.
Yeah, thank you, Kashif, for answering this question. I've just been speaking to Hassan on the chat, and he said his connection is really, really bad today. They had no electricity for half the day already. So it's logistically extremely difficult. He's still trying to get in, but I am kind of fearing he won't. We will definitely put on the bottom of this video, I think, a link to a video where he has spoken last week. So I would encourage everyone who's watching to see that, where Hassan has spoken in length about what is happening at the moment. I'm still hoping that he is coming in. There was another question, which is for Aziz, which was whether the IOM and UNHCR were at all present on Manos, and how was their work regarded by the migrants themselves?
Well, in regarding to IOM and UNHCR, they were not present completely on the scene. I remember as a liaison person, I became like a liaison person on the island, and I reached out to UNHCR back in 2015. 3 years after we've been, pushed and put into that, detention. 3 years later, we reach out to them and we ask them to intervene. But the answer that we have received from UNHCR is that we can't do anything because this is a detention center, which is an official detention center. And that means under the agreements, the agreement of the detention center has been signed between two governments, and which will give the authorizations to the other governments to perform on the other sovereignties, such as like Papua New Guinea or Nauru. And that will, reduce the responsibility of the UNHCR to be on the ground and to assist with the process. So my answer to your question is UNHCR were not present until 2015, end of 2015. After so many pressure, they start coming into the center, but with only a suspicious of not finding a solutions or pressuring the government, or only to observe. And then we had a RCRC, which is the International Red Cross. They came there, they did their observations. Then we have IOM. So what really struck me at that moment is IOM, their position, despite they see the violations against the human rights, violations against the international law, it's happening on the ground, but we have not seen much effort from IOMs or any reports that come up on the media to condemn the governments of what they are doing. So all they are doing is they were there on the islands, they were asking peoples that if you want to go back, we will help you. Beside that, we don't have an authorizations to do anything to you. And at the same time, IOM has become part of the scandal because Australia started bribing the people who are on the islands, which is paying them, a loads of money, like 25 US thousands for any individual who wants to go back voluntarily to your country. So which means to me that is you are going to, they buy you. You have to sell your life, so you have to go back to the danger. So in their perspective, they were thinking that they are an economic migrants, and which is, I hate to use that word, which is an economic migrants, has no meaning. So they were referring us to like an economic migrants or people who paid money to the smugglers to come in. So IOM jump in and say, okay, I will play like a mediation role between you and the government. So whatever the government is paying, I will be facilitating for you to go back home, and then I will hand up the money to you.
Okay, can people now hear me? Yeah. Okay, yeah, sorry, I had to switch to my mobile phone also. Yeah, unfortunately, yeah, Hassan said he cannot make it, but we are just gonna put the link where he spoke last week in the comment section on the YouTube video. It's a link from the Progressive International meeting where he spoke for the first like 40 minutes, really detailing his experience. But I really encourage each and all of you to watch that. I'm extremely sorry he can't make it. Yeah, so what he was saying very shortly is that the condition on the ground in Libya is extremely difficult because of the war going on, very close also to Tripoli. So the condition is not safe for anybody. Most of you probably remember that there was the bombing of the Tajura detention center like a year ago. On 2nd of July, the operations of the UNHCR have become more and more difficult. They do not, of course, have access to all the detention centers and all the places where people are brought to, even though that Hassan is registered as a refugee, he actually doesn't receive any help there. Also due to the coronavirus, his situation has become even more difficult because he cannot work anymore, and therefore, of course, he even can't earn any money, and he has severe problems to even get enough money to buy his food. So at the moment, we are also considering what help we can bring to people on the ground in Tripoli. We're looking into that with the 8 organizations which are still on the ground in Libya, because all the daycare centers in structures and support structures, which is working even less, is really terrible. And to listen to what I think we are now nearing, like, be happy if each of the speakers maybe wants to make a short final statement, saying how civil society, how journalists, for example, could do something, could improve on what is happening, and could show solidarity. Yeah, any one of you, please go ahead.
Can I say something?
Yeah, sure.
Well, I mean, as I mentioned before, in terms of the journalists, I mean, the role of the journalists and the role of the civil society. The role of the journalists, I mean, we want the journalists to report on the crisis, not only in a negative way, but in the positive way. That's what really will get the attention of the people, because what we are seeing today, every TV channel that you switch on, you will see, I mean, the negativity, which, I mean, directed to the refugees are more than the positivity that directed to the refugees. And there it leads us to a place where the citizen of each country, whenever you see something which is a negative about the refugees, what first things that come to your mind is that why would I rescue myself and have someone, bad person, in my country? Because as I'm having a peaceful life, why would I have a bad person in my country? That is the reactions of the people who are seeing all this negative image and the negative things about refugees. If today the journalists will report the thing which are the positive things that will grab the attentions of each population of the country, probably we will see that people will say, yes, we want to have them because we do have a space. We do have a space to have people like them. In terms of the civil society, yes, the role of the civil society is, yes, they play major roles, but I think it's not enough. Why? Because within the civil society, we once have an individuals. When I say individual, it's not someone who can report on behalf of your names, or not someone that they can speak on behalf of you. No, because that will reduce the ability of the refugees to come up and present, and will put them in a position of the negative way that you are unable to speak. So what we want to do is we want to see the roles of the civil society, and we want to mingle with the civil society, to be present in times of the actions with the civil society. Even if we're going to perform our painful stories, we need to be under that round table with the civil society, so that we can even push the state on the corner. Because civil society are trying their best, but they are not able to push the state on the corner, because the state will say, yes, you are speaking on behalf of that person. You are speaking from an analysis of the university analysis, which is a data collections or databases. So they want to have someone like with an experience that, look, like me, I or Hassan or anybody else, like there's a millions of Aziz out there, there's a millions of Hassan out there who have the similar talents, similar experience, similar ability. They can come and sit down and convince any state leader. They can convince him. Why? Because we have what it takes to convince you. And at the same time, we have the experience. So once again, I would ask that if the civil society wants to have a major roles and play major roles and to improve their movements, they have to have at least more refugees and migrants in the scene within that decision makers. Journalists need to report positive things. And one last thing I want to say about solidarity. I think, now she spoke about solidarity in a way that is really, grateful. But personally, if you ask me about the solidarity, what I see, what I can tell after the pandemic of COVID-19, in this pandemic of COVID-19, I have seen the refugee has been completely excluded from the solidarity. Why? Because we have seen the nationalism come up. Each country has blocked their border, and they are saying that it is us. We as Swiss peoples, okay, I'm all more concerned about the people, the citizen of Swiss, or the citizen of Germany, or the citizen of France. And with someone like me, Hassan, or millions of Aziz, millions of Hassan, or millions of Mariams or Fatima or whoever who coming from outside, they have been excluded from this solidarity. So as a matter of fact, the solidarity, it's just become a word that referring to a nationalist. It's not referring to the people who are in move. Thank you.
Thank you, Aziz. Kashif, you have a final statement.
Yeah, actually, it doesn't just depend on the states, it depends on the people. The solidarity means that you be empathetic and to get in solidarity with the people in move, the people in need. As Aziz mentioned, there is millions outside, and they will not stop. During the COVID-19's pandemic in Europe, people were just crossing the sea. Civil society and the rescue NGOs in the Mediterranean, they are doing the work of rescuing people, of saving these people. Appreciate their efforts, but also they not just need the support, but need from journalists to start discuss that topic from a different perspective. It's not just the people jumping in dinghies at sea, coming and crossing. It's more than that, as mentioned. And as tried to make it clear. EU, please reform your policies. Please don't be hypocrite and implement the human rights policies and laws that you are just talking about 24 hours. I would say again, there is a lot of initiatives, a lot of solidarity groups trying hard to work on helping each other as human beings. We have to put the focus on them to start to connect and network, and the civil society have to build a strong network. Because we are not facing just one state. We are facing a network of states out there. And we have, as mentioned, that to convince them to reform and to change their policies. Because we all are living in this planet, in the same place. I see also the connection between to be in solidarity and the struggle against the global warming and the migration. There is also people moving because of global warming, because of the change of the environment. I thought that COVID-19 will push people to think more about the life that we live, but doesn't, unfortunately. But I will say again, please feel the uncertainty that you have been through and think about these people and how to be in solidarity with it. Just think. Thanks.
Thank you, Kashif. Nevros, möchtest du ein Abschlussstatement auch machen?
Hinzufügen zu dem, was schon gesagt wurde, kann ich nur sagen, dass wir in all diesen Kämpfen und auch in der Öffentlichkeit einen Perspektivenwechsel brauchen. Die Perspektive von Migranten, die Perspektive von Geflüchteten, die Perspektive von Menschen, die von Rassismus betroffen sind, und zwar täglich vom Rassismus betroffen sind. Wir brauchen und wir müssen dem viel mehr Raum geben, weil es muss viel erzählt werden, es gibt viel zu erzählen und offensichtlich reicht es nicht zu wissen, dass es Rassismus gibt zum Beispiel, und es reicht nicht zu wissen, dass täglich mehr Menschen im Mittelmeer sterben. Dass die Perspektiven derjenigen, die betroffen sind, im Mittelpunkt zu rücken und deren Kämpfe auch im Mittelpunkt zu rücken und zu gucken irgendwie, was heißt das für die Gesellschaft, was heißt das für eine solidarische Gesellschaft, was entsteht daraus, das ist das, was wir in Zukunft mehr pushen müssen.
Ja, danke, Nevros. Thank you. Nevros highlighted this extremely necessary change of perspective, putting into the focus the people who should be at the center, because it's not enough for the societies in Europe to kind of understand that there is this racism, but to really tell the stories and highlight what is happening to the people who experience that. So, thank you all for joining. I think we have done this hour, and I hope it's kind of not the last time. I hope that we will get another time, in particular the possibility to listen to people who are on the other side of the Mediterranean, who are still not in a safe place. And I thank you very much for joining, and I hope we will work further on these issues. We have now heard of the things we can do and the work we should focus on and how we can practically support. And I hope that really each of us will reflect on that, and that we will not only speak about things that we're going to do, but that we are actually practically going to join the movements on the ground, organize and build structures and do something. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.